Hello, fellow chess players. It's Craig Marr again, bringing you another edition of Mastering the Middle Game. Today's topic is sacrificing the exchange. Now, this has always been a favorite strategy of mine, but what does it really mean? I know that a lot of you are new to the game, while others of you have been playing for years. Sacrificing the exchange means when I give up my rook, which is often regarded as a 5-point piece, for a bishop, which is often regarded as just 3 points. This is a strategy which every aspiring player, no matter what your rating class is, it's good to learn this. I'm not talking, about a position where I'm sacrificing the rook and then I'm producing a checkmate a couple of moves later. I'm really talking about sacrificing the rook for the bishop to get long-term compensation. And that is something that takes a little bit of courage to do. Why would one ever want to do this? Because isn't a rook worth 5? And a bishop is only worth 3. Aren't I really giving up 2 pawns in effect? Right? Well, let me tell you guys, there's a method to my madness. Anyway, let's kind of give you a real example of why we would want to sacrifice a rook for a bishop, and that is sometimes we want to get control over certain squares. Now here, let's kind of look at this diagram here. Notice that if it's white's move, this bishop on g7 has great value in the position because black has kind of made the mistake of having a lot of holes in the position. See, by putting your pawns in a certain way, you're creating weaknesses over here. And so this bishop has added value because it's really the only way, the only protector of the king in this position. You notice that everything else, all the other pieces, don't really protect the king at all. So, if somehow we were to eliminate this bishop, we just have a tremendous winning attack with the knight coming in, the bishop coming in, etc. Now, the new rule that I want to teach you guys today is it's not necessarily to try to win material. I know a lot of you trying to win. You're trying to win the exchange. You're not trying to give up the exchange. And you guys like to win pawns and take pawns. But the fact is, the new strategy we're gonna learn today is sometimes you want to attack weak squares. See, I see that these squares here on the dark squares, they're all weak, So what I can do, if it's white's move, is I can start out with a check. And now this knight is very powerful. If you take that knight, it's going to be bishop f6. Queen moves here. That's the only move. And now there's nothing really going to stop me from checkmating by bringing the queen over to here. And so your king has to move, right? And now I can move the rook over here. threatening mate. And now, if you capture the bishop, check with bishop, queen was captured, but now the rook is hanging with checkmate, so you cannot take the knight here. But meanwhile, I'm threatening mate, so you would probably be playing a move like this, right? And now the question is, how do I proceed? Well, I can just come down here. Now you cannot take the knight because bishop takes wins the queen. So in this position, there really is no defense to rook takes pawn check. Now here you have to take it, right? And then here I simply take your bishop, checkmate. Now here I kind of exploited the weakened dark squares, and in today's featured game we're going to be using a very similar strategy in today's game, which was played 1986 in LA. I had the white pieces against expert Sid Rubin, rated 2198, and this was the year that I had switched to the D4, so I was now a queen's pawn player, whereas for 10 years, the first 10 years of my chess career, I was an E4 player. So one thing I must remind you guys is that no matter what opening you play, your style never changes. And it's not really about the opening, it's really how you play the opening. That's the more important thing. Anyway, I had the white pieces against Sid Rubin, who had black. Queen's Gambit. This is a very common opening. C5 is playable. I didn't know if I was running into some trick line, so I decided to just play solidly. E3. Knight F6. Knight F3. So we can see that, for the first 5 moves, neither side has really made a mistake. And this is a very common opening. Now, you might be wondering, why did I play A3? What is the purpose behind that move? Shouldn't I be developing my bishop and trying to castle? Well, the thing is that if I move the bishop, he's sort of like gaining a tempo on my bishop if I move the bishop out. So this is very subtle of the queen's pawn openings, where both sides are trying to gain tempos. So now he goes here. I don't think this is very good because my bishop hasn't moved yet, and so I feel like maybe I'm won the tempo game here. Now at any point, black, if he wants, can force an isolated pawn on white. But that doesn't bother me too much because I have active development in exchange for my kind of slightly inferior pawn structure. So I'm not afraid of pawn takes pawn that much. So I played pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn. I played b4. And now we see the real point behind a3, and that's to develop the bishop to an aggressive square with tempo. So now this move I'm not quite sure is correct. Maybe he should have gone back here, but maybe it's not too significant. But we'll see that black is soon going to have kind of awkward pieces. These bishops could be a problem at a later point on this file. Now I play the first strong move, because this knight is a major defender of the king's side. So why not eliminate it? So knight takes knight, queen takes knight. At this point I want to pause, and do you see that white has anything strong here? Here I have rook takes bishop, queen takes rook, and now let me pause again. Do you see how white can begin a very strong attack on the dark squares here? This is how I attack. I'm going to force weaknesses in black's position, because he has to play g6, and then g6 is going to open up the dark squares. So we remember how in our first example, we were able to exploit the weak dark squares. So this is a classic case of that. This is forced, and now maybe I want to weaken those dark squares even more with now this forces h5 now. So now I want you to think about how you would further attack the black position, because it's getting weaker and weaker. Yeah, I know a lot of you found this move, but you can also think about this move, which maybe doesn't quite completely work. So I decided that this is solid enough. So this is practically the only move. If you don't come here, I might come in here with the queen or something like that, and it's murder she wrote here. So I decided to check. Now you have to get away from the strong bishop. Now I want you to decide how would you continue now. You have a strong attack, but where's the knockout here? See, I saw that this was an excellent penetration square for the queen. Threatening mate. And now he's really in bad shape because his queen can't move. So this is his only move. So I said, okay, give me that, And now the attack continues. And now I have some material. But you see that all these pieces over here just cannot participate. And this is black's only move here. Now I want you to think a little while and see if white has a killer move here. And we're going to calculate a little bit here. Okay, I'm glad that most of you guys have found knight h7, check, because now the king has to go here, right? And now queen check. Of course, if the queen comes back, it's mate. King must come up here. This is forced. And now bishop f6. Isn't that pretty? And of course, black resigned. Now I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Thanks again for watching.